let us talk about all about history in this video. So, in all about history, we will talk about first the meaning, definitions, nature, and scope of history. We'll also look into the sources of history. So, what is history actually? So, we know that history is nothing but the what is history? Itihas kya hai? History is nothing but the past, all the events that has happened in the past, the stories of the past. But so if you actually look into the meaning of history, history means history is a Greek word which means researching, which means information, which means exploration. So history itself means you are inquiring, you are in researching. So whenever we do some kind of research of the past, that is actually or we inquire about the past, that is actually history. So, inside the meaning, we will look into. So, the meaning of history has been defined by the Greeks. So, definitions. So, what is the definition of history? History is nothing but the record of the past, we can say. We can say history is nothing but all the things that have happened in the past is another definition. And the Greeks, who were the earliest people to define history, has have said that history is philosophy, which is teaching you by examples. One of the Greek scholars, Polybius, says that history is nothing but a story. So some of them say history is a discipline. Some say that history is a story of a man living in society. So, for more meaning and definitions of the history, I want you to look into this History Help channel, wondered why, which talks about the definitions of history. So, there is more information about the different definitions of the history itself. So, have a look into this definitions of history video. Next, we will look into the nature of history. So, what is the nature of history? Nature of history means what type or what is actually history. History, nature of history is very complex. So, it is kind of like history. Some of them say that history is nothing but we are only recording the past. Some say that history is nothing but growth and development of the society. Some say that history is actually nothing but things which keep repeating itself. That is, history repeats itself. If there is a war at one point, there is another war at another point. So World War One happened, World War Two happened. After World War One, there was a peace group that was formed. World War Two also there was a peace group formed. So some say that nature of history is nothing but history repeats itself. Some say that history is nothing but they do not it does not repeat itself. Some of them say, and some say that history is like whether history is linear, they say, that is, it goes from one point and ends in one point. Some of them say history is cyclic, that is, it keeps there is a start, there is an end, there is once again a start, there is a fall, there is a rise. So it is cyclic, they say. So that is the what is the nature of history is examined in detail in one of the videos which is given here. Similarly, the scope of history. Scope of history has become very broad now. Earlier, it was just history was just a one subject. Now it encompasses economics. It encompasses geography. It has archaeology, anthropology, and various other subjects that are coming. So the scope of history is also expanding. So all this is covered in this video. Nature and scope of history is covered in this video, which talks about the History Help channel. So it's a 18-minute video which talks detailedly about the nature and the scope of the history. So for both meaning and definitions and nature and scope, there are two videos in the History Help channel that I want you to look into. Next, we will cover the sources of history. Now we look into the sources of history. So why do we need sources of history? So see, we cannot write stories about the past without some kind of a book, some kind of writing, some kind of objects. So if in so without some proof, we cannot write anything about a subject. So even history is like that. So we require some kind of sources. So what are the sources? One is archaeological. Archaeological means anything which is the remains, objects of the past. That is archaeology. They're all objects of the past. Whereas literary means it's all written. So it could be writing on stones, writing on rocks, writing on palm leaves. It could be written on books. So all those is literary. Archaeological means everything that is objects. So let us take a deeper look into both of these sources. Now you know the importance of sources, right? Without sources, we cannot write history. We need some object or some kind of written word that talks about what has happened in the past. Otherwise, you can't write in a story, or you cannot write about what happened in the 10 years ago, what happened 100 years ago, what happened in 19th century. So we require some information, some proof. So that is nothing but sources of history. So let us take a look into the first kind of history, that is archaeological. What does archaeological mean? Archaeological means it is all objects of the past, or the remains of the past. It could be sculpture, it could be pottery, it could be, tools. You may have seen Harappan tools, prehistory tools in museums and all. So archaeology means it is the study of the remains of the past. So if you actually look into the prehistory, that is when there was stone age, old stone age, new stone age, that time there was nothing, no written word. So whatever we know about prehistory is all archaeological. That means when stone age was there, we came to know about stone age people due to the tools that they left behind. It could be tools of stone, it could be polished stone tools, or it could be, scrappers and all that. And so many other tools they had left behind. So study of those tools is also study of the is also archaeological. So archaeological sources are very much necessary to understand even prehistory and also history. So in archaeological, that is the remains of the past, there are four types. One is epigraphy. Epigraphy means it is the inscriptions where you write in the stones, rocks, pillars, copper plates, and all that. So that is epigraphy. Numismatics means whatever is the study of the coins. And monuments means all types of buildings. And excavations means whatever you have dug up in the, we have dug up Sanchi, we have dug up Patna, and we have found many things. By digging up the places, we have found an entire civilization, an entire society. So all these come under archaeological. So let us take a look at them one by one. So in epigraphy, if you come, epigraphy is the study of inscriptions. What is inscriptions? Inscriptions is anything which you have written on rocks, stones, pillars, and all that. So they can be written in any language, Sanskrit, Pali, or it could be written in, if you come down to South India, it could be written in Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam. So there are some thousands of inscriptions that we have found in the country. So we have some of the famous inscriptions that we have found as the Ashokan inscriptions, which are called as edicts, and they are written in rocks, and it's found all over the country. So you have Ashokan inscriptions, you have inscriptions about King Samudragupta, you have inscriptions about Aihola inscriptions, which talks about Pulakeshi to the king. Then you have inscriptions about, in Hoysala temples. We have inscriptions in pillar called Talagunda pillar, which talks about a very ancient king called Kakutsavarma. So, and then there are inscriptions of Gupta period. So, all these inscriptions talk about, what the king did, what the officers under the king did, how was the society. Talks about genealogy of the king, matlab uh, which king it is, who is his parent, who is his successor, who is the predecessor, from which dynasty he comes in. And sometimes epigraphy could just be about a land grant, could be about, I mean, you are giving a particular land or donation to a temple. So it could also be inscription of that. It is just a record. So epigraphy involves both official and private. Official means the king is doing something, and private means some landowner might have given a grant to a temple, that would be recorded. So all of them which are written on stone, pillars, rocks, copper plates, all of them fall under epigraphy, and they give us very much important information about the society, about the king, about the dynasty and all. So each of them we will learn when we are learning about the particular dynasty. Coming to numismatics. Numismatics means the study of the coins. Now, even coins tell you a lot of information about what kind of economy was there. For example, in the Gupta period, there were a lot of gold coins. That shows that Gupta kingdom was very prosperous. Gold matlab it is profitable. It's less of silver coins, more of gold coins. And coins also give us dates. This king was there on so and so date. That is also given in the coins. And sometimes they talk about, see, certain dynasties, like we didn't know that Bactrian, Parthian foreign dynasties had actually conquered and ruled India. We know this only because of the coins that we have found. We have found the number of coins of Bactrian and Parthian foreign dynasties that had come in the country. So coins also help us talk about the different dynasties. They give you a lot of information besides dates. They also give you information about the social economic conditions and all. So that's why study of coins is also archaeological, which is also as an important source of history. Coming to monuments. Monuments, you would have seen a number of buildings in terracotta and bricks. You would have seen, for example, if you see Harappan, this one, bricks are there. So, study of those bricks has helped us understand that Harappan civilization was a very advanced civilization when it comes to town planning and all, because their bricks were well made, they were of standard size and all. Similarly, if you study temples or shrines, you come to know a lot of information about the society, because temple, shrine, walls, and all have many stories, many sculptures. So you come to know what is the economic and what is the social conditions, who was the king, how many queens he had, and how was the ruling. So when you study about temples, which is also a monument, you come to know about history. Similarly, if you see down south, if you see Pallava temples, Hoysala temples, Chola temples, you understand what was the architecture of that period. Similarly, if you go to Ajanta, Ellora caves, you understand who were all there and how different traders used to come there, how religions like different religions flourished, what kind of patronage kings gave. So all that information you get through monuments. So monuments is also a very important source of history. Now coming to excavations means digging up places and finding a lot of information. For example, we did a lot of excavations in Sarnath, Sanchi, Patna and all. So one of the major excavation that we did was in 1922, when Harappan civilization was discovered. So when they dug up Lothal, Gujarat and many other places, and Harappa and Mohenjo-daro sites were found, we came to know that there was a civilization called Harappan civilization. Till then, we only thought that the Aryans came from somewhere from Central Asia, and they were the first ones to come to the country, conquer the country, and all we thought. But when we realized that 1922, when we did digging up of some places like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Lothal, and even in Guwahati and all, we realized that there was still older dynasty called the Harappan civilization that was even way back before Aryans. So that means Indian civilization or the Harappan culture was as old as China or Egypt or Mesopotamia. So excavations, once we do, we realize that like what we did for Harappans, we realize we come to know a lot of information about societies. So one prime example is the Harappans. So this is all about archaeological. So next we come to literary. Literary we have indigenous. Indigenous means local. That is your what was there in the country. And then we have also something called foreign travelers, foreign traders, all of them came and wrote about the country. So we have books, we have information about that also, which is also as sources of history. So let us take a look into a little bit about the indigenous history. So indigenous source of history. What is indigenous? Indigenous means um, which whatever was written inside the country. It can be religious like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Vedic Vedas, Puranas. Then we have something called Smritis, Buddhist and Jain works. All of them are religious works. Then we have something called semi-historical, which is partially history, and then we have some historical works like what Kalhana wrote about Rajatarangini. He wrote a book, or this Chand Bardai, which was written about Prithviraj Chauhan, or Harsha Charitra, which was written by Bana. All these are history works. So, taking a look into religious works, we have Rig Veda, which is one of the oldest literary source. It talks about Vedas. It talks about what was there in society, marriage, caste, social customs. All of them are you have got a good information. You're reading the Vedas. Even Ramayana and Mahabharata tell you how was the society, what kind of tribes were living, what kind of kingdoms were there. It also gives you information about geographies, like you have Kishkinda, you have Hampi. All those information are there in the Ramayana. And even Mahabharata talks about Hastinapur. It talks about Ayodhya, all Kurukshetra, and all those places. So all of those geographical location and tribes names, tribe kings names, society, everything we come to know from the religious texts like Ramayana and Mahabharata. In fact, in Mahabharata, there is something called Shanti Parva, which talks about how the state should be, how the king should be, how he should rule, what should be the law, what should be the crime punishments and all that. So you get a good deal of information, though it's in a story form, and you know we all India is famous for its stories, but in spite of that we have a lot of information. Similarly, Puranas, which is again 18 Puranas are there, and they talk about certain dynasties like Nanda, Mauryan dynasties. So there are some 18 Puranas, and some of the ones which are worthy of mention are Vayu Purana, Vishnu Purana, Padma Purana, and all that. Similarly, there is something called Smritis, which also talks about a lot of information about state, justice, and all. Buddhist and Jain works were also there, like Sutta Pitaka, then Jatka tales were there, Jain works were there. They also give you a lot of religious and history information. Similarly, if you look into Patanjali, Panini, Kalidasa, they were all dramas, but that also gives you information to historical events. Coming down south, you have something called Sangam. Sangam period, which is also written, Sangam works are there in Tamil Nadu, which talks about how the conditions were there during the early ancient period in South India. Then you have something called Tirukural, which was written by Tiruvalluvar, which talks about political and social organizations in down south. It talks about duties of kings and all that. So these are semi-historical works, religious works. Coming to history works, we talked about Harsha Charitra, which Bana wrote. That talks about the Vardhana dynasty, early Vardhana dynasty. Then we have Prithviraj Charita by Chand Bardai. That also talks about Prithviraj the king. And we have Arthashastra, which is found during the this Mauryan period, and that consists of 150 chapters. It talks about king, it talks about who are his council members, it talks about various laws, it talks about how war diplomacy should be taken care of. All this is there in the Arthashastra. Then you have Kalhana's Rajatarangini, which talks about Kashmir. It also gives references to Ashoka and Kanishka, but it can be considered as a historical work, though there are few errors and issues with that. So not just indigenous, so these were indigenous works which was there found in the country, and it was written in the local languages. Coming to foreigners also came, like traders, pilgrimages, scholars, they all came. So one of them was the first we can talk about is the Persian conquest when it happened. Herodotus was one of the, he's known as the father of history, and he, who had never visited India, talks about the Persian conquest. So he has written a little bit about this. Then we come to know about Alexander's invasion through some Greek and Roman writers. Then Megasthenes wrote Indica, which talks about the Mauryan period. Then we have Chinese travelers like Fahin and Huang Sang, who wrote a lot about the conditions in the 5th, 6th, 7th century. Then you have somebody known as Taranath, who was a Tibetan, who talks about Buddhism. Then Muslim scholars like Al-Baruni, who came with Muhammad Ghazni, and he wrote about he has studied the Indian culture, and he also learned Sanskrit, and he wrote the book Al Hind, that talks about Indian maths, physics, chemistry, astronomy, and all. Similarly, we have other Muslim scholars like Suleiman, who wrote about the Rashtrakutas. Then coming to Chinese pilgrims like Fahin, Huan Sang, Itzing, they talk about Harsha, Pulakeshi, Nalanda, and all that. Similarly, Buddhist works like Dipavamsha and Mahavamsha from Ceylon, they also talk about the conditions of the spread of Buddhism and all that. Similarly, we have Sufi works, and Tara Chand talks about the influence of Islam on India. Coming to modern works, you have some books by Vivekananda, Dayanand Saraswati, and then you also have Panikkar and many of the Bhandarkar, R.G. Bhandarkar. So many people have written about the modern period and Bhakti movement and all that. So, taking all these into consideration, so the history has been written.